to the How to Spark Success podcast. I'm your host, Liz Hamlet, and I'm a success coach and business mentor, and I'm also founder of Spark Succeed. So this is a podcast where I have conversations with smart and savvy business owners, thought leaders, and people doing really amazing stuff around the globe. So I've got a real treat for you today in my guest. She is a self-care coach, a speaker and mentor, and one of the reasons why we wanted to get her on the show is she helps highly driven women in business go from stress to success with their health. So we love the tagline, and she's also founder of Gut Intuition. So it's fantastic to have Shim here with us. How are you, Shim?
I'm great, Liz. How are you? Thanks for having me on your podcast today.
Yeah, well, it's great. So we got to know each other through a number of networking meetings. Know that you've spoken, we've had sort of one-to-one catch-ups, and I was really interested in what you're doing because it's really important, you know, currently with everyone juggling lots of different situations. So do you want to tell us a bit about your story, how you got to be doing what you're doing now?
Absolutely. Where do I start? I'm going to try and condense everything down into like 5 minutes if I can, but I'm a sports therapist by trade, so my first business was all about helping people like the corporates, the investment bankers with their backs and, you know, posture problems and things like that. But, you know, very quickly I learned that why do these problems keep coming back? And I was like, there's got to be something going on with our emotional and mental world as well as our physical world. And, you know, I got very uncomfortable being comfortable in that business. I'm sure a lot of people listening do feel that sometimes. And I decided to just stop that business back in January 2018. I wore many hats, as we do. And in that business, of course, I reached burnout many, many times as well, because we love what we do and we're passionate and driven about what our business brings solutions. And very quickly that same year, my health started to suffer. Although I let go of a business that was quite funny and, you know, it was fun to do and I had amazing clients and an amazing team, but my body couldn't get the stress I put it through. That was the bottom line of it. And I couldn't ignore the pain anymore. I had a lot of gut problems myself, a lot of hip pain, neck pain, all sorts of things. And then same year, by the end of the year, I got tested and I had a bacterial infection that I didn't know that I had for 4 years prior to that. And I was like, that's bizarre. That's just crazy. And I kind of backtracked a bit and realized some of the decisions that I had made in my business at the time, the uncertainty that I was going through, how unclear I was sometimes, how much not looking after myself affected my bottom line, which is my finances, and you know, and various other things that we feel we've got to do as CEOs of our businesses and so on. So it's what inspired me. My mess with my health is what inspired me to develop the Gut Intuition, because it was so empowering for my health and how I started to look at health very, very differently, and sort of not coming away, but integrating the physical, emotional, mental well-being of ourselves together as an integrated approach. That is fascinating. And then fast forward to now, I started to sort of more niche it down to just helping highly driven women in business that are reaching burnout, are kind of juggling a lot of things. And I know how that feels. And all I'm saying is that it's not the end all here. There's no one size fits all. We do have to start thinking, getting into a habit of thinking that there is more than one thing coming at here. There's more to one piece of the puzzle that's at play here with our health, and how that directly impacts how we run our businesses. So yeah.
And it's, you know, interesting what you were saying about sort of, because often that stress and anxiety manifests itself in a sort of physical ways with physical ailments or, you know, headaches or aches and pains. So, I mean, we talked earlier, you've been doing a lot of podcasts and been quite busy during lockdown, because obviously people, you know, lives have changed, their working lives have changed. In some ways, some people's have got more straightforward, and in others, you know, particularly parents, they're juggling a lot more, trying to juggle work and childcare, etc. So how have you been working during lockdown with your clients?
So believe it or not, I was working not online. I was working offline more. I was doing my own stress workshops for my first ever corporate client, which was WeWork in London. And then that was going really, really well. I was about to be introduced to a lot of other offices in London. And then obviously the COVID hit. So everyone panicked and everything just stopped. So I was like, I've got to turn this around. So yes, it was an unusual and stressful time for me. But the biggest I would say the biggest success to that was, who do I know in my network that can help me turn this around? And I was able to use the time during lockdown to actually create something digitally to continue helping clients and my sort of current clients through just getting the best out of their health, because it doesn't have to stop when, you know, when COVID hit, always face to face. We can do it online and at your own pace as well. So it was an interesting time, but everything happens for a reason, Liz. Like, you know, I kind of embraced it more than saw it as a threat, if anything. So it was definitely an opportunity for me to grow and teach and educate women in a different way.
Definitely. And I think, you know, it has lockdown, you know, my other podcast, which is Lockdown and Then What, is all about sort of opportunities, collaboration. And in fact, the next episode, I've got my co-host coming on as a guest. So that'll be interesting in a different seat. But yeah, I think, you know, actually this has been an opportunity for businesses to relook at their offerings and actually, you know, add extra strings to their bows, which will continue post lockdown and once we sort of eventually move more into sort of normal lives again. And I know you've been sharing a lot of tips, haven't you, in networking groups, sort of speaking opportunities and podcasts. So what have you found people are really looking to hear during this current time on sort of tips and information?
The biggest thing is how to get control back. A lot of people are feeling out of control. The government has given us a lot of rules and restrictions, which as humans, we're not kind of used to that much, particularly when it's just been imposed that you've got to do it this way. And it's out of our control. So this is what I think causes a lot of fear. Fear causes a lot of stress. And then we just want comfort. So we end up binging on food for comfort, alcohol, Netflix, Zoom. Even we can go on a binge with Zoom, and I would say, like, there are so many different ways. That's what the whole stress to success system is all about. Is like, there's ways that we can get a sense of control back, a sense of calmness back into our lives, because everything outside of us is out of control. So a lot of people were struggling with sleep because they were so stressed about finances and money and how the future looked for them. And whatever happens, you still need to sleep and recover from your day. So how do we get a sense of control back? What are some of the steps that we can do right now to get a good enough night's rest so that we are better for it in the morning? And so on. You know, what can we do with our diets that helps us during a stressful time? Like, rather than going for sort of fried foods, or, you know, foods that we're going to react to more. Nothing wrong with that, but it's the overindulgent of that and how much we do it. So, you know, good quality fats and good source of proteins and carbohydrates is essential actually for a time of stress, particularly when we don't realize what our stresses are. It's good to maintain that kind of habit with our foods. Not to say don't enjoy what you enjoy, but, you know, kind of in moderation alongside more sort of vegetables and fats and proteins. So,
and that's a good reminder, because often, you know, when we're stressed or bored, we reach for those certain naughty foods, and just makes you feel worse in the long run. So
it's nothing wrong with that, but it's the longevity of it. It's how long we stay in that state. And the longer we stay in that state, the more chronic stress and symptoms we suffer from, not just the acute stuff. Acute stuff happens, but it's the chronic stuff that I would pay attention to more, like weight gain, insomnia, back pain, migraines, headaches. All of those common signs are problems that are going wrong with our sort of gut-brain connection. So we kind of need to take a step back and go, what's going on in here? And then get a sense of control back. Our thinking pattern becomes a lot clearer when we take the fog off.
Yeah, and I love the name, you know, the gut intuition, because, you know, often when we're nervous or, you know, the gut, the stomach is the first thing to sort of show us those
Yeah.
emotions. So, I really like the sort of ethos behind your business. So, obviously, in your career journey, you've always been interested in the sort of body and the physical and everything, and I really like the way that your sort of personal experiences have been brought into what you're doing now. So, what would you say has been the biggest factor in your success?
Looking back at it now, it has to be self-care.
Mm.
If someone said to me, what does success mean to you? I would just say those two words. It is self-care. It used to be a whole paragraph of what success looked like to me. But, having gone through what I've gone through and the journey of everything and where I am today with the gut intuition, it has to be self-care. Like looking after me and me first. Absolutely has a ripple effect on how I deal with clients, how I deal with myself, my decision making, my thought process. I think without that, you wouldn't know whether you're working at your optimal best. So
Definitely, and I think often people that have been through those sort of experiences themselves are the best coaches, because they can say they've got both the sort of practical knowledge and the guidance and experience, but you can say actually what worked for me personally was X, Y, Z, and being able to bring that into your practice, I think is really really powerful. And exactly what you said is, one of the things I've learned through this podcast is, success means totally different things to different people, and for some that might be very much sort of a monetary amount that they reach with their business. Others it might be sort of the impact that they have on their customers, or sort of on the sort of community at large, or it might be just being able to sort of impact on one person. So I love that, the sort of self-care element, because after all, success is no good if you've got terrible health and are stressed all the time.
you can hear all those billionaires, millionaires out there that have got the money, but their health is just shocking. Like it's just out of this world, really, really poor. So, you can't enjoy the money that you work hard for if you're not looking after yourself.
Yeah, and I think one thing, a lot of us have learnt during lockdown is that sort of element of that, actually the benefits of that sort of more simple life, the benefits of, not having that big commute and sort of early mornings having to sort of commute. So, I think hopefully that would be something that we can carry forward into, once we move more into, maybe a mixed home working, office working lifestyle.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was actually just in Canary Wharf yesterday, catching up with a mentor of mine, and it's dead. Like I spent 6 years, that's where my first business was, and I think it is changing a lot. I mean, it's very, very quiet. It doesn't feel like it's 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, the trains are packed. So life has changed, and it may continue to go like that. We never know, but it's about embracing those changes. So
yeah, definitely. And you sort of, obviously the self-care is a big part of your success habits, but what would you say is sort of your most important success habits that have helped you?
So obviously we established that self-care routine is really, really important. Connection. I'm a big connector. I love connecting with the right people. I connected with you on some of the networking events and many others, because I feel like without that human connection, that human interaction, like how do we learn more about ourselves? Like how do we understand what kind of business owners or person that we are? Like we it's almost like that teacher student kind of role that we often play back and forth. Asking questions has been a big success habit of mine. Like we shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. No question is silly. And I think the biggest pathway to success, whatever success looks like to you, is asking questions, because if you don't and you're leaving it to figure it out all by yourself, it's going to be slow progress. It's progress, but it's a bit stagnated, and you're kind of left dealing with your own sort of mindset around it. When you share ideas, when you connect with people, when you talk things through, bingo, like I just feel that has been my biggest aha moments, my biggest leaps forward in my business, and not in my business as well, my health and my personal journey as well, is connecting with the right people, looking at their experiences and seeing how they can help, how we can help each other, and asking the right questions. Like it's the continuity of being mentored and coached as well. and just learning and growing all the time. That's one of my values anyway. So
yeah, I'm totally with you there in terms of that, that the value of peer coaching, and sort of speaking to people with very different brains to your own. We are all, we're all business owners, and often if apart from sort of client interaction, it can be really valuable to have that interaction with business owners that perhaps, may be totally opposite thinking to yourself. So you might be a creative brain and they're very analytical, and that sort of conversation might spark off ideas on both sides. So I'm totally with you there, and the benefit of collaboration, and it's great to see you're sort of doing work with WeWork and sort of other business owners, and I know you're sort of very collaborative in networking and everything.
yeah.
So, fantastic. So sort of on a reflection piece, if you could start it all over again, what would you do differently?
It's an interesting question, Liz, but I think it's going to be a very short answer. I wouldn't start again.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't, because I just think everything that has happened in my life and all the ups and downs and the wins and the challenges, it's what shapes me to be the person I am today. It's how I help people. It's from your persona, it's your experience of it, your wisdom, and I just wouldn't do anything differently. I think I would definitely just carry on as I am. So.
And it's interesting, talking to you and talking to a number of, my other podcast guests and clients and everything, it's often those really tough times, like you talked about your, health issues that you were struggling with over a long period before you got a diagnosis, that actually comes up with something really positive in terms of, your change of direction, whilst it's still in that sort of physical care like you were doing with your physio and sports therapy. That sort of caused you to change direction, and I know that it's obvious that you love what you're doing, because it comes across when you talk about your work, but and I think that's what makes you sort of infinitely sort of more knowledgeable and sort of the best person to be providing that information. I mean, you must see a lot of people during very stressful periods of their career or of their life come to you. So do you see that sort of, obviously you see them out the other side, and are they seeing a lot of sort of changes for themselves?
Absolutely, like their mindset of how they approach themselves, their health, their food, their sleep, how they talk to other people has changed a lot. Like imagine like if something has peed you off first thing in the morning and you go into work or you're going on Zoom calls and stuff, and you still got that chip on your shoulder because it's not something to do with them, it's something to do with something internal, and they can't quite get their head around it, or it's just they just don't know how to calm themselves down. Just stuff like that. Like I said, it's never just one factor. There are so many different factors that we work with clients. Like some people would have issues with, fungal problems, or, bacterial issues, or have an imbalance of gut bacteria, or have sort of problems with blood sugars, for example. So it's all up and down. So their productivity is going out the window and they don't know whether they're coming or going. And a lot of these things can be self-corrected by using the stress to success system. So just doing the basics, the sheer basics, before going down the route of, expensive testing, or even spending money on supplements, thinking that that's going to solve their problems. A lot of people don't have the basics sorted of healthcare in order to get the best out of their health. So they're the quickest, cheapest, effective way of actually getting the best out of their health. So
that's interesting what you say. People coming to you with perhaps one issue, but when you start sort of working with them and digging into more detail, it becomes that's just a sort of symptom, really. That's not the sort of core issue. I find that a lot with my success coaching clients. Is they'll come and they'll have one particular objective that they want to achieve, and actually that can be achieved quite quickly, and then it starts sort of opening out, like, well, actually this is something that I've always wanted to sort of work on. So
exactly.
And what they think is sort of the key issue. Often there's a sort of other things, that might be a confidence thing or a sort of anxiety that's sort of manifesting itself in another way. So know that that's how you'll be working.
Exactly. Like you know, when we go into adulthood and we're still suffering certain issues and we can't quite put our thumb on it, it's like, what's going on? And it is about working backwards, connecting the dot backwards to move forward. So, you know, someone might have been dropped as a baby and had head trauma, but didn't realise how much it's impacted them neurologically going into their adult life, and so on. Like, it can be, you could be born with, you know, they call it dirty genes, where you have gene defects that we don't even know we have. So the real thing here is like getting curious as to what our symptoms are telling us, and not to be scared of our symptoms. Symptoms are just messages from the body giving you a direction on what you need to look closely more to, rather than resisting against it. So if you know, if people have got stomach issues or back pain and things like that, normally we'd go and have a nice massage and release it out, or we'll take Gaviscon or something like that to just calm our symptoms down. But it's just masking it with a big plaster on it, really. And I think, given the recent pandemic, I think it's an opportunity for people to formulate better questions about their health. Like, what is actually going on with me? Why have I got a headache for like 6 days? Like, what else is going on? It's not just my mindset. Our psychology and our biochemistry marries really well together. They're not two separate things. So yes, we look at the psychology part, but then we also look at what's going on biochemically as well. So
And I think that's quite interesting what you say about that sort of dirt. I think you called it dirty
genes.
and you know,
Yeah.
and the fact that some people can be, you know, do something or live a certain lifestyle and be, you know, fairly unaffected by it in terms of sort of mental health or stress or, you know, physical symptoms, and other people are sort of extremely sensitive to sort of any slight adjustment. So, you know, not, you know, treating yourself as an individual when you know, working with someone like you, sort of really key.
It's probably, you probably heard of the saying, your genes load the gun, but it's your lifestyle that pulls the trigger. So we can have all sorts of these things embedded in us from a gene point of view, but how we live our life truly is what is going to either activate it or keep it dormant. So yeah, that's the why self-care is so important.
So I'm sure sort of over your career and your life, you've received lots of great advice, but what would you say is sort of the best piece of advice that really sticks in your mind about sparking success that you've received from someone else?
Figure out who you are first. I think that minimizes a lot of fatigue, exhaustion that we feel on a deeper level. If you ask that question, if you were to start all over again to someone that is a 9 to 5 office worker that doesn't enjoy what they're doing, 9 times out of 10, they haven't figured out what their strengths are as a person and what actually lights them up. When you figure that out, we don't take enough time to do this, but it literally is like taking some time out in your life to understand what lights me up, what am I most passionate about, what would I absolutely love doing when I wake up every morning and it just puts a smile on my face and I cannot wait to get going. That is what will help people achieve their own success a lot quicker than having to just sort of do the whole sort of norm side of things, where it's just the 9 to 5, the grind of working, paying bills and things like that. I felt like that 10 years ago when I was doing my gym jobs in London, and I was like, there's got to be more to life than just, you know, paying bills and going to work and doing my shifts and things like that. Where's the excitement? And we cut the joy out of life when we don't do that for ourselves. I think it's really, really important that we do figure out our own strengths and what makes us us, you know, what makes you you, kind of thing. So
Yeah, I think that's totally, you know, totally important in sort of career, but also in your sort of personal life and, you know, private life as well. If you're sort of feeling like you're constantly, you can't be yourself, you know, you can't demonstrate your sort of best skills in your career. And, you know, I talk a lot to sort of podcast guests, you know, who often their careers have sort of gone up and down and all over the place with different areas before they've sort of come to where they are now and, you know, doing what they love. You know, the importance of actually being yourself. I remember one particular guest, Stephen Thompson, in one of the earlier episodes, he was in the police, he was in sort of very serious squads with the police, you know, and he now runs a sort of marketing and social media firm, and he says, you know, now I've just learned I can just be myself. I'm not a policeman, and that's how I classify myself. I'm, Stephen,
Yeah.
I'm a bit silly, or, this is, I'm doing exactly what I do, and, how liberating that is. And, I love that bit of advice that you're
I
sharing.
love that. As soon as someone says, I can just be myself, bingo, you're already winning at life.
Oh, that's amazing. So if people want to find out more about what you do, want to connect, where's the best place for them to come to?
I'm really active on LinkedIn. I've got a lot of content on there and I share a lot of stuff on there. So connect with me on LinkedIn, say hello, be human, and take it from there.
Brilliant. We'll make sure we include your links in the podcast write up and notes. And yeah, connect and you'll help them go from stress to success.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been fantastic having you, and I'm sure I'll be bumping into you at many a networking meeting going forward.
I'm looking forward to that.
Fantastic. And for people listening and watching today, join me for the next episode of How to Spark Success, where I'll be joined by Jose Ucar, who is my co-host on the other podcast that I host, which is Lockdown and Then What, which is a audience. We have an interactive audience listening to us, asking questions, keeping us on our toes. So that will be an interesting one. He is a public speaking and communication coach, and he transforms people and business through the power of advanced communication and public speaking. And he's a big personality, so join me for that. And if you've been inspired by Shim's story and you would like to spark your own success, then why not book in a call with me at sparksucceed.co.uk to have a chat about your needs and how I can support you. So Shim, it's been an absolute delight to have you, and hopefully you'll join us for future episodes.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Liz. Thanks for listening.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.